Good morning. Pastry Chef Expansion Challenge, Session 2, coming up in about 10 minutes or so. Get your coffee, brew your tea, have something to write with. We'll be coming at you in about 10 minutes with another great session for everybody. Let's go. We're almost ready to go here. You can hear my voice say yes. Making sure everything technical is going okay. Let's get ready, let's go. Let everybody join in here, no matter where they are in the world. We'll get started soon. Yes, one more time. Everyone's favorite Sunday morning music lets you know that Pastry Chef Expansion Challenge is coming up. Let's see if we get to my favorite part here. Welcome in, everybody. Glad you could join us. Get ready to get started here. Yes. All right. Welcome in, everybody. For those of you catching this live, and of course, many this week plan to catch it on a replay as we're getting busy and fall is upon us. And that means, thankfully, many things have picked up, perhaps in a different form or fashion, but picked up nonetheless. So how was everybody's week? I did get a chance to talk to most of you. It's very exciting and interesting, much bigger group and much more varied backgrounds and activities and things that everybody's into, but very inspiring for me to hear everybody's stories and help a little bit with your whys. We'll get into that more again today. And I know that's the hardest part. This week one, a little bit will start to make sense. Session 2 as we get going with those things. But next week, something easier. We'll be getting ready to get our social media channels tidied up and have them being even more productive for us. So that's something less soul searching, a little bit more fun that we can look forward to. The story for the week that I wanted to think about, something that was top of mind for me, hopefully get a little takeaway from that, is, some things that happened this week for me where we're really busy all of a sudden. There's some unforeseen things happening, just life stuff that happens to everybody all the time. And, we always say when it rains, it pours, which really seems true all the time, the good things and sometimes the not so good things. And I wanted to mention to everybody out there to use that and those challenges, that circumstance, as an opportunity to remind yourself why you need to be motivated to get the things that you want and to do the things that you want and enjoy the activities that you have, no matter how crazy this year has been or any other year. If you're in our industry, let's face it, most years are crazy. And we always say, well, the slow time, the slow season, and that never materializes. Maybe a little bit. If you do have some downtime, that's great. Pat yourself on the back for being in an environment where you have some time to woodshed and plan for that other time, which is just bananas crazy. But we know if there's customers for a business, we're going to serve, service, create goods, and try to continue to make them happy, which is what we should. But when you have some hardships or you remember something, we'll get into some very planned daily visualizations that should help everybody, that help me kind of get ready for each and every day, each and every activity, and move toward the success of projects. When those life things happen, remind yourself, hey, this is limited here. My opportunities, they may be maybe not that limited. Maybe I feel like I have months or years or decades to get to where I want to go. But in reality, I think we understand that we actually have right now and can't really worry about yesterday and the past. We can move toward our future with our trajectory like we started last week. But we've got right now to get motivated. We have right now to understand that some of those things that have happened to others, some of those close calls that have happened with ourselves, just change in general that brings uncertainty, should be a motivator to put in one more hour a day toward your dream that speaks to you, one more small activity every week set aside where you don't worry about stuff, one more or many more opportunities to think about where you want to go and focus your energy there and not focus on what's not working out well today. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I dwell on the same thing for an hour and I dwell on that thing for 1 minute, I don't know if I get a better answer or intuition for worrying about it longer, dwelling on it longer. And yes, I'm not saying avoid those decisions you have to make, but if that answer doesn't come to you right away, thinking and thinking and thinking, as we sometimes do, and I've definitely no different. I've done that to opportunities and choices in the past, but all that thought and worrying didn't necessarily get me closer to decision making. Stepping away from that, doing something that I enjoy and invigorates me, spending time with people I care about, kind of puts me in a different mind state. Then when I come back to that fresh, maybe I can solve it. So if those solutions aren't coming to you, those answers aren't coming to you, step away, focus your energy on something else, and then come back to it. Um, Basic life advice, easier said than done, but it was top of mind for me today to just remind everybody to, be motivated by the things that are happening, the things you see around you, and to not worry so much about those things. We want to be here to enjoy being a chef. Again, when we started out getting to this field, and when I talked to everybody this week, it's because they were really excited to work with food and be in an industry and a profession, an artisan discipline that makes people happy. At the end of the day, we're here to make people happy. It's a great profession for that. But when you get wrapped up into the business of things, which is also important to our success, sometimes that just kind of beats it out of you, right? A little bit by little bit. And we want to get back to that. So find ways to make the creativity flow, find ways to just appreciate if you have your own business. Wow, you're on the front line of what it means to create your reality as you go. And that's really scary. So if you continue to do that, that's great. And some of you have been doing that for a while. And if you're in great positions where you work for others, but you truly appreciate the opportunity to caretake that resource, to have access to that resource, use that opportunity to the fullest, increase that opportunity even more as you get toward your goal, if that's not your end goal. And for everybody in between, hopefully you can learn from everybody's experiences as we pass it in this group, and as we go through the sessions, to kind of connect further, network more, and get closer to what your dreams are and those things that you really want to do. I wanted to thank you all once again for participating in this. I know it gets hard when it's busy, and each of you who made time for the calls, again, most of you were able to communicate. Perhaps book your calls earlier. We can move things around if it doesn't work. We're getting pretty busy here too, but this is something I'm dedicated to, because just like we said, making pastry for a guest makes you happy. It makes me happy and fulfilled to see everybody's successes and realignment. One thing I learned from talking to everybody, you guys are already really successful. You just want to be better. You want to be happier, grow more. That's something I love about pastry chefs. We are dedicated to a field that requires constant improvement, and we're rewarded by it. We need to grow, right? Human beings in general need to grow, need to expand, and we're dedicated to that here. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your involvement. And also, it's a good time to thank some of the sponsorship that we have this time around, from Vosges Chocolate, Prodotti Stella, Gelato Ingredients, IFI Gourmet, Chef Rubber, Nielsen Massey Vanilla, Blommer Chocolate, John Corner Company, Corner, and Barry Calabo. Thanks to everybody for supporting these initiatives that directly help pastry chefs, aside from just learning how to make recipes and showpieces, learning how to kind of get to where we need to be so we can use those skills, that toolkit that we built, to reach all our goals and really serve more people and make more people happy. So great big thank yous to everyone. You can look at the session today, session 2. activities to push concepts and boundaries. And we'll look at our trajectory map of where it is after last week's review and kind of getting into some other things on that target that we think might be limiting, but we'll find out if they are or not. And then identity, we got into a little bit on the calls, identity redefinition, what makes up our chef identity? When did we decide it? What part of it do we love? What do we want to keep and expand? Or maybe some things we want to lose, they don't serve us anymore. And then your brand, aligning that with your identity and the trajectory, just getting that all lined up. You can always adjust it and change it, but really, once you get those things that are most meaningful to you in line, you're going to go. Expanded ideas 5 to thrive. We'll check that out. And of course, some little take home things that concern new menus and new formats, which are always important for us, but now more than ever with the different style of service we might have to do. Touchless, less contact, more sanitary, but still creating some excitement. And then that workbook activity that everybody loves. So we'll start out with our concepts and boundaries. What are the boundaries for a pastry chef or a dessert business? I mean, the concept of boundaries, you see here, is rooted in actual and perceived precedent. So the concept of boundaries is rooted in actual and perceived precedent. And what does that really mean? Some of that are things that we've seen, we believe to be true. Some of that are things that, it's just, we just feel that way for whatever reason. That's just the way it is. The information needed to refine this limit, it's often, dormant. It's not active until history redefines it. So this is a really long-winded way of saying that boundaries and our concept of boundaries and our belief of what those boundaries are, they really only exist until they're disproven, right? In so many fields in life, there's always been a first. And there have been areas where we thought nothing could ever happen. No one ever is going to go to the moon. No one ever is going to be, Americans will never win, a French boulangerie competition. This won't happen. These things won't happen. And again, what do we see from just the nature of being human? Individuals who hear that and say, I don't believe that. That's not what I believe. This is for me. This is my vision for success. And I'm not going to let that get in the way. I'm going to push through that. And I'm going to prove what I know to be true, that there really is no limitation there. So we need to identify in your marketplace, those are personally as a chef, but we know chef and brand, you're like this now, right? You are a walking brand if you want success outside of yourself and your household, right? For example, it is sometimes harder for us to embrace commerce. I think it's getting easier when we realize that we're serving individuals and we're not just trying to make money. But yeah, we're trying to make money so we can serve individuals. It's part of that cycle. We'll really examine later on in the series about session 4 and 5, how to monetize and a little bit more of the brand. But identifying in your marketplace, what are the perceived boundaries? Is it that people like me can't get there? Is it I'm too old? Hey, you guys, like I'm 50, I'll be 51 next year. And I'm going to tell you, to me, it's not about age. It's about energy, right? It's about energy that you bring to it, feeling vital, feeling that having experience, is a great thing to add, and understanding how to position your strengths. And, then when you're younger in your career, it's the exact opposite. I'm a career changer and now, I can't get opportunities. People won't take me seriously. I'm a student. I went right into culinary school and there's no opportunities and no one will give me a break, or I have to work. There's no money and there may not be money. So we have to get creative there and get resourceful and all those other things that we tell ourselves like, hey, I'm not good at wedding cakes. Well, couldn't we learn? Everything that we do at one point, we're not good. So identify whatever boundaries you see. One from me in the past was just stuck as being a chef. having talents in the operational side. I mean, think about what great operators we are as pastry chefs. The ability to advise the business, sit in on P&Ls, purchase, source ingredient, set up programs. That's a lot of business that you could advise and really bring value to another business or your business, increase the value. But often people think the chefs are the creative people, especially pastry chefs, and they wonder why we're so serious sometimes. So yeah, identify some of those limits, and then evaluate. Are these even relevant? Like, am I even worried about things that don't even involve me right now? And I would say most of the time it's not relevant. People used to say to me at various times, you don't look like a pastry chef, or we've all heard, don't trust a skinny chef. And I'm working on being less skinny. Just kidding, but in terms of those things, that doesn't mean anything to your ability to create and be amazing at what you do and help the business. So evaluate which are relevant, and just when those things come up, I would just ignore them. You need to spend your time focusing on other things, and politely say, I don't know. I wouldn't even get in those conversations, because if someone has a really strong belief that you're now stepping away from, just by stepping into it, then it kind of rubs off, and then you start thinking about it. You want to have things in your mind that are on mission for you, and then just redefine it. Again, it's only a boundary until we prove it wrong. So if it's something that's a hard boundary, prove it wrong, write it down. If it's something that's soft boundary, you're going to beat, why even consider it? But I would, um, do that exercise at least once, where you say, okay, these things I'm not so worried about, and these other things, yeah, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna look at that every day and picture how I'm gonna surpass expectations, how I'm gonna blow that out of the water. So here's our wonderful trajectory map, filled in a little bit. We had a preview last week, and most of you are solid on your why. And yeah, this is important stuff and really difficult. That's the thing to get right, guys. That's the thing to get right, the why. And everything kind of flows from there. And again, you can change it. Some of the attendees in the last series took them a couple of weeks to kind of refine their why. If it's too broad, it's hard to, capture that in terms of all the projects and tasks and goals that you're going to have. If it's too narrow, it may not be accurate to movement over time. So if it's narrow but it feels right, that's great. Make sure we're regularly reassessing, not just January 1st, but in this business climate, I would say reassessing, just look at it every 2 weeks is not crazy, because isn't our world in business and in restaurants and in culinary changing like every 2 weeks? And all those things affect us. All the businesses connected to it affected by this, or on a regular basis, quarterly. For those goals on the outside of the circle, those should be sufficient. For all those circle goals, we had some that we can start looking at. Everyone had penciled them in nicely. And then these arrows would be those limitations or perceptions of limitation, just to be aware of. And, we can put some circles past that if it's something that you're going to smash through. And that's sort of what's important, is that when you get to those things, that we just smash all the way through it. So like you see here, push past the boundary, punch all the way through, right? If you're going to break that board in karate or in taekwondo, you just don't stop and you hit that board, right? We got to go all the way through. We're going to smash through it. So when we're aiming for things and we do our visualizations and we write our projects and our goals and our financials, here's the goal that we think, we're going to meet that based on blah, 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 past projection and that. So that's what, budgets, and that's how businesses work. But really, for wise entrepreneurs, for brands that are dynamic, for pastry chefs who want to expand, this is where we go to, right? That's where we go to. That's where we go to. In our minds, that's the goal. Everything less than that, we'll take it all, right? That's good. Give me that, but that's the goal. Way up high, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Okay. And one of those things that's important to get kind of squared away for that to happen is kind of thinking about those definitions. So we have here two pastry chefs. One on the left says French, it's like really they're both cartoons of pastry chefs. There's a little French chef with all these petit gâteaux. And you have the chef on the right. She's holding a beautifully designed wedding cake with perfect piping, because this is a nice drawing as well. And, which elements make up our chef identity, and when do we decide it? Which ones do we value? What do we want to keep? Which ones do we not want to keep? Which ones, don't serve us anymore? Those are the ones that we want to kind of let go by the wayside. And when you think about these two chefs here, think about it for a second. Do we relate to either of these caricatures of a pastry chef? Probably not, right? But yet, most of the world might look at a cartoon like that and say, "Oh, there's a chef." He's skinny though, so watch out. They're both a little thin to be pastry chefs. Take them seriously. But actually, it's a good point. Like, what does a chef look like, right? Go look in the mirror. That's you, right? That's you as a chef, and how you want to emanate that and take the manifestation. That's your path. Again, don't take that path of success that's prescribed by other people. That shouldn't really be that relevant. It's fascinating. I'm not saying don't learn from that. Absolutely learn from that. Go learn from every aspect, and hopefully have varied experiences. Food, we know, is amazing for that. It brings cultures together. It brings, our particular culture in North America. If you're here in North America, if you're abroad, you may know this. You may have been here and moved back home, but the strength, the single probably greatest strength and weakness for us as chefs, working in the United States in particular, is that we don't have one set history of culinary identity, right? That's a really amazing thing. So we innately have been innovative and free to do things. It's also our biggest detriment, in that without those, we don't have that identity. So, think about that in summation. When you have that identity, you have a background, you learn those specific ways to do things. Why does most of the world revere, what was documented and developed and created by French chefs in general, right? Really the most organized, historically innovative, and well documented. It's really important. Really archivally, set up to be able to pass down, and set up an apprenticeship model to pass that down through generation to generation, where as a culture, we're this, not that. So that's important. And almost every country in the world has learned from that. And if we're smart, what we do, of course, is adapt that, develop it, portray it in what makes sense to us and our culture. So it can be tricky, but above all, we all have that freedom of opportunity in the United States to kind of operate how we want to. And it is our extreme responsibility to try to bring as much professionalism and high level design, integrity, and quality to that. And we know that, but businesses always don't know that, because we're also live in a culture that's motivated by the bottom line. So what are the elements of our identity? We need to kind of pick some that are relevant, and we can also say what are parts of our identity by what aren't. So these things, we are not for, extreme preservative based products, and we can kind of get closer. Maybe we're about all natural. Maybe we're about plant-based food. Maybe that's really central to our why. That is a what that helps us manifest our why. So we need to get through those identity. And if you're in a business, or you have clients that ask you to do things outside of that very high level description of what you want to be, what you stand for, then you have to make the choice. There is no right choice there. And there's not even the wins are personal wins, and you have to decide if taking on things that are not 100% aligned with your identity, well, you know what? That's going to be pretty normal because your identity is something you chose, right? We know that. We might have chose it a while ago. I'm asking you to re-choose it now. But there's a lot of things that won't align 100% on that ideal version. So we do have the ability to continue to serve that ideal client and at the same time bring the best. So for example, when you have a request from your superiors, if you work for someone, if you have a request from a customer client, most everything is driven from outside, right? And things that people have asked for or things that we think that they need. And the first thing we can step with is combining that ideal vision. I mean, this happened a lot to me in retail grocery. If you guys work in retail, you know what I mean. You're really competing with a really, really, really junky key lime pie that can sit on a table for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And in your heart, you want to make a key lime pie that'll last an hour and be delicious, or maybe a day or two and be delicious. So taking our education and not being discouraged and finding a way to say, hey, my identity is to help affect change by going into those venues and making it better. And it might be incremental improvements. If that is something that you can be flexible with, then you can be successful on your way to getting that perfect version of the product that you want to initiate. Maybe, and many entrepreneurs do just that. Eventually, to get there quicker, to only do what's in their heart and their vision, they just jump out and start their own business. Otherwise, we need to be flexible and understand with that strong identity we have, it's easy to be flexible if you think about it, because we're not really doing anything to change, where we're headed, that trajectories that we made, that our why is. We're being flexible to make improvement in the world. And I think that's very admirable. It's not something that we can say, is wrong. As far as brand alignments, another interesting dimension, another interesting element is this law of diffusion of innovation. It kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about as far as being innovative, doing your why, having the products you want to do, coming up with really good things. And as chefs, often we like to be innovative. We like to be, ahead of the competition. I mean, think about it. Who in your particular space is completely crushing the game? Who is it that is number one in the marketplace? And what can you learn from them that'll save some time? How can you get closer to them to learn? For me, it's kind of refreshing to be a fan of something. We have in our neighborhood recently opened up a gluten-free donut shop. I hesitate to say they're gluten-free because they're just really good donuts. And you know what? They're really amazing donuts. They have a donut that I really like, that you can tell there's a really good pastry mind behind that. They have a glaze and whatever's dusted on top. They have a couple like this that are chopped up and kind of stick to it nicely. It's easy to eat. It's very portable, just really thoughtful. And it's exciting to be a fan. And yeah, I'd love to be able to make those as well. So getting to know them, being friends, that's all good. But I admire someone who's doing a gluten-free donut shop, because gluten-free donuts aren't number one in the marketplace for donuts yet. And so when I tell people about the donut shop, I, purposely don't say this, and they're gluten-free, unless that's something of interest to that person. I just say, hey, you should try these donuts. I think we're all fan of products that are great and just happen to fit into one category or another. And in some categories, it's more challenging than others, as most of our field was based on, dairy and other ingredients that are hard to replace. Some aren't so hard, depending on the structure. Some are a little more difficult. But in terms of your chef identity, you may be, and part of my identity is I want to be innovative. Like I want to be a chef who isn't afraid to try new things. And I think that's still most of us, right? We're really interested in what's new. We want to be educated and be aware of innovations. And perhaps, we want to create innovation for our business. And if you look, if you're really, really innovative, that's great, right? You're doing something that no one's doing. It's amazing. Um, but 2.5% of your customers really appreciate innovation and enough to say, and I want that, right? Those, uh, those are people like you and maybe a lot of pastry chefs, right? Early adopters you see here is 13.5%. Those are the part of the population that loves to find new things and be first in the marketplace. They're an important group. You may have some of those people that just get all the cool stuff you do while everybody else is buying, blueberry muffins, plain chocolate bars, chocolate chip cookies, and asking you to do really mundane services that, oh, by the way, are super important to sales and how businesses operate. But the early adopters want to do all the cool new things first. They want to stand in line early to say that they had it first. And the best thing about this group is they also want to tell everybody, hey, you know, I was first to have this. You got to go. I'm a tastemaker. I'm a trendsetter. You find those people, on social media quite a bit also, and they're great because they're going to tell everybody about those things. And hopefully that'll help convert people into the next group, which is that early majority. And if you see this arrow, the tipping point, so this is what I want you to really pay attention to. The single most important thing about this law of diffusion of innovation is the tipping point where the early adopters start to climb into the early majority. Now, that's 34% of your customers fit into that early majority where, and especially I would say in a pastry, artisan pastry, that most of your customers are going to be kind of into that early majority because they appreciate a few things. And you'll find them in grocery and you'll find them in other venues. You'll find it in the bride that wants to have something other than just a regular wedding cake or maybe no wedding cake. But you'll see that 34% plus the 13.5% and the innovators, well, now we're really getting momentum. But what's really driving that for your business is the early majority. So the question for you should be, in my innovations, and again, we can't stop innovating. We have to grow. We can't not bring new products to the marketplace. They may drive sales of your old products. That's a great strategy. When I worked at the Peninsula Hotel, we had many Asian inspired products. When I worked in the Southwest, we had many, chili inspired Southwest flavored items, but those were never the number one sellers almost across the board. They were, I imagine a conversation like this and a customer comes in and they say, hey, what do you have that's cool and exciting? And the person behind the counter is probably not you, says, I don't know. We have these jasmine muffins. And people go, oh, jasmine muffin. That's really cool. You know what? I would love a blueberry muffin. Thank you very much. And on and on and on like that. So getting to that early majority, is important. You just have to ask yourself, can you get past that innovation, sort of that lack of volume of customers who are interested in being innovative? They're going to wait. They're not going to wait for someone else to buy it first. All these early majority, they're still kind of waiting till a tastemaker or a friend or they read about something to hit. Then that late majority, once you get a lot of publicity, we have the publicity class where we're working on that now for businesses who have their whys solid, and many of those people went through this, but we're really working on getting into that late majority, early majority, late majority role where things just kind of set up for themselves. So I know there's a couple of you in the group right now who are actually way past the tipping point and are ready to start that new wave of creative products to get to that future growth. Moving on, 5 to thrive. I'm gonna drink a little Earl Grey tea here, and let's discuss that. Expanded ideas. How do we expand our ideas? Talking to some of you guys are pretty good with the woo-woo stuff, good with meditation, things that, maybe for some people it's a little weird. Other people, it's a way of life. Other cultures, it's every day. What I'm asking you for 5 minutes every day is to consider this type of visualization. Visualize what you want to do before you do it. What are the products and services that you can offer the marketplace from your trajectory map? What are those things, and think about them. And then take that 5 minutes and one by one go through them. I mean, look at this quote from Audrey Flack. And the reason I included her, she's not super well known. She's well known as an American photorealist. So this is an individual whose paintings kind of look like photographs, right? Like they're just ultra real, super solid, right? Not expressionistic, not abstract realism, just really solid, looks like a photograph. She says, visualize what you want to do before you do it. Visualization is so powerful that when you know what you want, you'll get it, right? Seems simple. Is it really that powerful? And we know that it is an element of success for many, Olympic athletes, business leaders. So, like we talked about previously, even if it's just like, whatever, I don't have 5 minutes, you probably have 5 minutes to just try it out and see how that aligns with your day. Do it in the morning, when you're fresh, visualize what you want to do, and, kind of go like this, sit in a quiet place, sit up straight, close your eyes, quiet is good if you can get it. If not, just concentrate on each project that you're working on. And here's the key. So listen to this. It's visualizing each project and the next, something current, next week, next couple weeks, next couple months, and visualize it like it's done. That's the key. That it's done, and how great it was to have completed that with all that hard work and energy that you put into it, and just visualize it like it's done, that you've met there. You can picture what it feels like to be there. You can really go through what you're talking to other people, who else is there with you, telling someone about it, how great it felt to really get there, and then go on to the next one. Just a minute at a time. If you want to spend longer, cool. 5 minutes you might start with, you may end up, who knows, 30 minutes of really good visualization of all those things you're working on. No matter how this sounds to you, I guarantee doing this every day has helped guide me to focus on those things they want. And interestingly enough, things keep materializing. So this is one element of that, 5 to thrive, 5 minutes. If you can allow that, to thrive, step into it just like it's done. And let me know how that goes for you on your calls this week. And I'd love to hear just kind of what atmosphere is perfect for you to get into that visualization. Do you have some essential oils or some candles, smudge sticks, whatnot? We can get into that. Moving on to our homework for next week, and kind of some of the new formats. We started looking at it last week. What are some of these single serving? I'm seeing more, I don't know if you guys are seeing more, on Instagram and other places, of some really cool looking food that's in a to-go container, top off, shot top down. So I think this is really compelling. I know all of us have been asked to create and design some products and some packages for this kind of grab and go activities, this grab and go outlets, with that in mind, something wrapped. So it's can be limiting, but I think like anything, it's only limiting because it's new to us. We haven't done it before, but I think you can bring artistry to that without a doubt. Complete artistry. New formats, what are single serving contactless items? And then the festive season's coming up. And I think, cookie tin is a traditional version of what is going to be really easy for people to understand right now. Our small cookie boxes. The festive season for us gives us a lot of opportunities for these sort of grab and go, or, setting up a table or some kind of kiosk where people pre-order, and you can really, show online in your online stores. You can really set that up quickly where you order one day and it's delivered another day locally. If you're already in the shipping game, how many more new products can you get in the marketplace to drive the ability to publicize them and to market them rather than just what you always do. Sometimes we've kind of trimmed all our offerings during the early part of this year when things were difficult, and that's really a smart strategy. But now that we get into the festive season, what can we add to it, knowing, since things have kind of progressed and lasted longer than we perhaps thought it would, knowing that many people's festive celebrations would be smaller groups. Are we formatting things with that in mind? How do we get outside of our building and create revenue streams and other verticals for ourselves? And what can you offer virtually that others aren't offering? Is there customers or guests that you can do a live cooking demo for, like we used to do, but live, virtual? Send them ingredients, all work together. We've seen a little bit of this, and it's definitely things worth looking at. Producers Consumers Platform. Take a look at this platform, and I'm going to pull myself out of here so we can look at things more clearly. This platform creation is central to next week, and we know we're a brand now, but where do our consumers fit in? We're the producers, or we manage the producers, or we bring that part to the table, and we need our consumers, customers, clients, what have you. And that platform is in the middle and really allows us a way to, create a dialogue and eventually monetize. A platform creation, as we read here, it's a business model that creates value by facilitating exchanges between two groups, right? And the model is effective for chefs and dessert businesses as shared stories and experiences assist in building the business. Okay. So, what are some things like that? When we do the farmers market tables, when we are able to, outside of our business, now we have this other platform we created. If you create, like we did, a competition that brings people to it, or like many companies do where they host something. Now, the way we have to host is different, but you're creating that platform, or you're creating a YouTube channel, or another way to kind of bring people in and have those relationships start to build, and casually, which we'll talk in detail next week, to really casually get to know them and cozy up to those businesses. And that includes your competitors, and get to know them. Things that we need to do this week. So for your homework, if you don't do anything else, look at all your platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these channels, Twitter, YouTube. They're actually, technically someone else's platform, but you have a bit share in it. So look at those channels and kind of consider, where you're at with each of them, how much do you use. We're going to add LinkedIn to that one. I know that's interesting that LinkedIn, I was looking at a post from this week, the same post on Facebook and the same post on LinkedIn, which for forever I kind of just downplayed. It's good to have, there's some headhunters on there. There might be some friends, but I didn't really, see the use until really recently. But the same post on Facebook, was 250 some views, within 4 or 5 days. And then that post is close to 700 views now on LinkedIn. So that's really incredible. And then when I think about it, LinkedIn, there's more likely to be, for my business, which is a lot of B2B on the consulting side, likely to be more companies that I would want to get to know and perhaps need, my services than all my Facebook friends who mostly are chefs. And both important groups. We want everybody to know and spread the word and see what we're doing. But as we get into next week, you can see that each of those channels is going to have something really meaningful and different way, and it's worth our extra effort to kind of get into that. So hopefully, we brushed up on our whys by the end of this week. We'll have that solid. If you're watching on replay, try to watch it as early as possible. If you're watching this for the first time, and perhaps consider rewinding and go over key sections. I can see we're getting some good views on the videos. Some of you are doing that. That's great. If you're getting behind No worries. Jump in where you can, get in where you fit in terms of just doing something that benefits you directly. That's the most important thing about this, again, is that expansion, that growth. We want everybody to have a wonderful week every week. And we know that's not easy because you'll say, yeah, but Chef Jimmy, this happened, that happened, that happened. Well, I can tell you, I mean, you'll know I have like 5 kids, right? So something happens like all the time. And a lot of you have big staffs I've had in the past. So if you have all these components or 2 and 3 jobs that, I commend you. That's someone who, again, is taking that extra time committing to themselves. If you have this side hustle that you've reinvigorated because of this, remember, when you get home from, your other tasks or jobs, it's time to get into that project. It's time to just commit. What can you commit? 30 minutes, 1 hour every day. Well, 6, 7 hours a week, 30 hours a month, that adds up to move toward that goal on your trajectory. So get your why solid, put in those projects, those things that are really aligned with the why, put some dates on there, go sky high in terms of what's possible, ignore the boundaries, get that map somewhere that you can look at it again, take a look at your social media, refresh that, and we'll see you all, next week for week 3, where, we've got our whys. We're able to kind of get going in terms of all our social media and how to broadcast that, what creating a platform could mean for us. And also we'll move toward doing a little video editing and mini kind of visual photography lessons. So on our calls this week, let me know, do you have a nice camera? Have you done a lot of video? You're interested in video, how that works for you? And that's about all I have for today. Be well, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in, investing in yourselves. You have my gratitude, and be well.